Hi everyone, you're watching the virtual Amicus and I'm Jay Lodha. Well, Harvard Law School, the oldest and continuously operating law school in the US and among the most prestigious colleges in the world. Now, owing to its low acceptance rate, it is highly considered to be a very selective law school, a highly selective law school to be short. Now, it is home to the largest academic law library in the world. So, in short, it's a dream law school for any law student from any part of the world. Now, some of the famous notable alumni that includes foreign nationals such as President Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, Michelle Obama, former First Lady, Lloyd Laffinson, the Chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs, and Indian nationals such as Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, the ninth President of Republic of India, Honorable Justice Rohington Fali Nariman, former Judge, Honorable Supreme Court of India, Honorable Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Judge of Supreme Court of India, and Mr. Kapil Sibal, lawyer and politician, to name a few. Now, joining us today on this really very special session on the Harvard L.L.M program, the master's program, is someone who needs absolutely no introduction. He's done his LLM master's from Harvard Law School. He did his BA LLB honors from National Law School of India University. His name is Mr. Shadan Farasat. And just to give you all a brief introduction about our amicus for today's session, Mr. Farasat is an advocate practicing law at the Honorable Supreme Court of India, High Court of Delhi, National Company Law Tribunals, and other high courts and regulatory forums across India. His areas of practice are diverse and include constitutional law, commercial law, arbitration, civil and criminal law. As a lawyer in the Supreme Court, he has been part of landmark cases such as the constitutional bench decision in respect of powers in the Delhi government, the illegality of instantaneous triple talaq, the powers of Delhi Assembly to summon Facebook representatives, besides regularly appearances in civil and criminal appeals and writs in the Honorable Supreme Court, in particular in cases concerning international child kidnapping and custody. He appears in high courts across the country in civil, criminal, commercial matters, including tender matters and matters concerning international parental child kidnapping and custody. So thank you so much, sir, for taking out time on Sunday morning and doing this session on Harvard L.L.M for us. It really means a lot to me and my entire team. Anything that you wish to say before we start with our segment, sir?
No, thank you very much, Jay, for having me for this session. I think it's a great opportunity for me as well to, be part of a process which I was part of, say, 15 years back. So it's great to be back in a slightly different role.
Fantastic, sir. Now, before we start with the Q&A section, sir, I did mention as a part of your introduction that you specialize in matters concerning international parental child kidnapping, custody, and international child kidnapping custody. Sir, if you could elaborate and throw some light there, what do we mean by such? What matters are you referring to here?
Yeah. So that's an area which is sort of niche, and therefore a lot of people, especially even litigants who get into it, are not aware of it. What happens is, of course, with globalization, things have people move around. So a lot of people of Indian origin, they could be US citizens or they could be Indian citizens. They marry either in India or in the in one of the Western countries, Europe, UK, or US, and they live there. And then say their marriage does not work out for A, B, or C reason, and one of the parent brings the child without the approval of the other parent back to India and then retains the child unilaterally. Now that under international public law or is considered to be a case of international parental child kidnapping. And there is a Hague Convention on this aspect of thing. India is not a member to that Hague Convention, but India is a member to UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And there also, there are certain clear obligations that a parent cannot keep a child abroad without the consent of the other parent while denying the other parent custody. Normally, in these kind of cases, what happens is that the parent who's the terminology is a left behind parent. So the parent who has been left behind without the child is called the left behind parent. And the parent who unilaterally brings the child to another country, in most cases I deal with, it's India, is called the taking parent or the abducting parent. So normally what happens is the left behind parent moves the US court or a European court or a British court saying that my child has been unilaterally, illegally removed from the jurisdiction of this court. In most of these cases, the children are foreign citizens because they are born there. And therefore direct the child to be restored back to the jurisdiction, their home jurisdiction. And in most cases, those courts do grant that. And based on that order, then they move a habeas corpus petition in one of the Indian high courts where the child is been taken to in that jurisdiction. And if you move timely without much lapse of time, and there are no other complications in facts, normally the Indian jurisprudence is that they do grant the habeas corpus and direct the return of the child to the home country. So that's broadly I mean, of course, there are a lot of facets and shades of it, but just in simple words, that's broadly what it is.
So it is basically the constitutional courts which are the right forum, and the legal remedy lies with habeas corpus petitions. In short,
Yeah, yeah.
jurisprudence is still developing. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And now let's quickly start with our Q&A segment. So question number one, and here we go. What stage of LLB, which is the undergrad program, the undergrad course here in India, did you decide to study further, one, and pursue the master's program?
Yeah, I think that's always a difficult decision for every student, because by the time you are in fourth year or fifth year, normally most people fourth year, they start thinking of it seriously. And so the case was similar for me. I mean, in fourth year, I gave it some serious thought. There are two options normally. You either apply straight out of law school, that is by the end of your fourth year you'll be applying, or you can wait to get to get some work experience for a couple of years or 3 years, and then apply thereafter. So I gave it some thought, and I decided sometime, and towards the end of my fourth year, I think that yes, I am definitely interested in the masters, but I would want to do a good amount of work ex before I apply. And my personal sense is that for most people, I think that's the better route, to get some work ex, because what happens is we all join law school at the age of 17 or 18. We are really young in India, and even by the time you're graduating, you're 22, 23. So you are really young, and to get the maximum of the degree, it's better to get some work ex, because otherwise it becomes in my sense a little bit of an extension of the 5-year BA LLB, right? It's just like the 6th year add-on, of course, in a different law school and a different setup with all the other things. But the work ex really allows you to put in perspective. And that's also something you will see, because most, even with work ex, when I went, I was 25 or 26. I was, and most other Indian L.L.M candidates were amongst the youngest in the batch of L.L.M. So most people are in their late 20s or 30, 31. So even then you are still amongst the youngest lot in the L.L.M program. So if you're really going at 22, I think you're not able to get the most of it, is my sense.
So I think, so the points that you're trying to make here is that it's always better to work first and then subsequently not make it an extension of your 5 years course, gain experience, and then take a call as to which courses you will specialize in, what law school to apply to.
Yeah, I think that would be true for most applicants. I mean, of course, there will be exceptions where people, it may make sense for somebody to apply straight out of law school.
Yeah.
But I think for most candidates, it would make sense to get some work ex. Also, I think it improves with work experience, it improves your chance of getting in. Because at the end of the day, internships are, they're a couple of months, 1 month, 2 months. They're really not substantive experiences in that sense. But a work ex is a substantive experience. So even in your SOP, etc., you can really build upon it a lot better once you have that work ex. And I think so it allows you to make a better application.
Very well. So to all the viewers who are watching, we enter law school early and then we graduate early. So it's always better to gain that experience before you take a call on master's program. So, going ahead with our next question, sir, in a nutshell, if you could tell us when is the applicant required, when we talk about applicant, we're referring to Harvard applicant, required to start with the preparation or the application process? What is he required for the same in terms of prerequisites? Now, every college or university has a set of requirements that you need to fulfill. So basically, when I talk about prerequisites, I'm referring to a robust CV, a statement of purpose, good grades, recommendation letters, internships, or work experience. Is that important? And what does it take to build that application for the purpose of securing admission at Harvard Law School?
Yeah, I think, one should broadly start working, actively start working on the application about 10 months to a year in advance, is my sense, because you need to do a decent number of things. I think the error most people do make is they start very late. They will start 3 months before the application. Normally the application dates are in November, mid or end November, early December. And they will start in, late August, September, and, with a couple of months left, then they start scrambling and going about it. So one thing is, of course, when you are in a law school, you are obviously our law schools, whether you're applying for a L.L.M or not, are anyways very CV oriented. That's the structure of law school. Everybody's building their CV all the time. I mean, we did it. I'm sure it's no different for students today. So that is fine, and therefore you're already orienting yourself towards building a effective CV. But actively working, I think about a year in advance is a good idea. You will have to figure out how you want to write your SOP. I think the actual writing of SOP, you should start sometime, at least 6 months in advance of the application date, because you should do different, versions of the SOP. Do your first version, then send it out to people, who have who have done the L.L.M program. They will give you your feedback, then do a second version, then third version. So that way you slowly improve upon it. Because there's a tight word limit, it's important that you really put in everything in the best way possible, in the most concise way. The language has to be good, and it should nevertheless present the best picture of your firm. And that can't be done if you are going to do it in a rush in a couple of months, because then, it's very easy to write 750 words, but it's very difficult to write 750 words which really showcase your life and why you want to do what you want to do, if you're going to do it in a rush. So I think at least 6 months for SOPs. Also, like SOP is like a story, right? It's basically your life story, and why you want to do what you want to do, and all your achievements in law school, before law school, outside law school, at work. They have to connect like a nice little story, so that the reader, who's the admission programs officer who's reading it, gets a sense that, okay, this guy, I think this guy or girl, and I think this is very important. I think the two things they look for is passion and commitment is number one to whatever broad area of your SOP is. And second, just ability. So I think a good mix of your ability to show that you have passion and commitment, number one, combined with ability. And that's where your SOP has to showcase that quite clearly. It has to come out explicitly and clearly. Then combined with that, of course, you need good recommendations. Now, recommendations normally, of course, one for Harvard, 3 is preferred, and I would say you should give 3 recommendation. One will certainly be from somebody, either a professor or a director of an institute or something like that. One should be, a couple of others should be from work experience. The recommendation should have very specific details on why you are, and most people who do write recommendations are aware of this. But you can generally instruct them that whatever of course, the recommendation will be written by the recommender. A lot of Indian students sort of write it themselves, etc. But let me assure you that the admissions program at Harvard is very well aware of that. So it's not a great idea to just write your recommendation yourself and get it approved by whoever it is. It's better for them to write it. If they need some inputs in terms of whatever your CV, etc., you can provide it to them. And the recommendation should, in effect, showcase why you are saying what you are saying. It's just not good enough for the recommender to say, oh, he's an exceptional chap. But why are you saying he's exceptional? Show the piece of work which made you think that he is exceptional or he stands out from the rest of the bunch, which is there. And another aspect of the recommendation is you have to compare in terms of students who have been to the L.L.M program. How does he or she relate to them? Is he as good? Is he better? So just some kind of a comparative, narration of the abilities of the candidate you are recommending. Also, to get 3 recommendations, get them in time. Everybody is busy. Professors are busy. Your employer is busy. All of that. So it's good to, again, keep sufficient time going for that. And then the third thing is, like I said, the CV and the SOP really match together, because what is stated in CV in very structural terms is put in SOP with, it's combined with your passion and intent and commitment and your view of life and how it backs with your life story. So I think the CV, the SOP, and then, grades are important, but grades are not the only thing. Till the time you have broadly decent grades, you don't need to be a class topper only to get through to Harvard L.L.M. Till the time your grades are decent, and your rest of your CV and your ability is proven to do work passionately, they'll be very happy to take you on, is my sense. And it is, of course, I know of people as well, and that whose grades have not been good at all, wouldn't be considered. But nevertheless, because they had so much else in terms of just what other things they did make it to the L.L.M program. but that is rarity. But broadly, the largest chunk of people who get in are people with reasonably decent grades, but not the top-notch grades, but with a very broad profile of other things, passion and commitment. I think that's the biggest chunk of people who get through the Harvard Law program.
Very well. So I think passion, commitment with ability to get in. I think that more or less sums it up. Sir, but when we were in law school, we were told that only candidates and applicants with exceptional grades backed with solid CV have a chance. But I think there you clarified, which is very important to all the viewers who are watching. You, even if you don't have exceptional grades in your CV to reflect upon, you still have a chance as long as you have a rock solid statement of purpose that satisfies and justifies the needs and the requirements of the Harvard Law School. Now, sir, to add to question number two, I mean, this is something that I always wanted to ask. That do you think that a recommendation letter from a judge would outweigh, or have an edge over other recommendation letters, or is it what is written in that matter, the content of that recommendation letter, that is important more than the person that is coming from?
Yeah, so I mean, both are important, but obviously the content is more important than just if you just intern with a judge for 1 month and he writes a recommendation for you, but he's not able to really signify in that recommendation as to why he or she is writing what he's writing, then that recommendation is going to be a little value. But if you have been a law researcher or a legal researcher or a law clerk to a Supreme Court judge or a High Court judge for 2 years, and that recommendation then sort of in detail narrates how you have been an asset to that judge in his judicial role, then that will obviously have a very different impact. The point really is it's important to have people who when speaking for you, their word will count. It is more important to have people who know you intimately and your work and are able to speak in an informed manner about that.
So the work of the applicant has to be an asset to the organization where he's worked, irrespective of whichever post he or she is on. So that's a very, very important point that sir made. So I hope everybody is noting it down. And sir, going ahead with our next question, sir, did you shortlist any of the law schools other than Harvard? And why you narrowed it down to Harvard Law School? Was it because it is regarded as one of the most prestigious colleges in the world, difficult to get in, or is it because of the prestige value that is attached to the course you had opted for?
Yeah. I had applied to 3-4 law schools in the US: Harvard, Columbia, NYU. And I did not apply to Yale because I did not have an academic interest. So I mean, Yale is more oriented towards academic L.L.M program. They have a very small program, only about 30 students, L.L.M students, I think. And it is primarily intended for people who wish to later on be professors and be in the teaching and the academic field. Yeah, and I did get through most of my programs I had applied for. I did not apply to many programs in the UK because I had sort of decided I wanted to be in the US L.L.M programs. The reason I applied is basically, I think broadly my interests were a good mix of public law, constitutional law, private law. I worked with a law firm for 2 years, so I did have a very strong interest in arbitration, in commercial law as well. And it was a good mix of both of those things. So that's why I applied, for a program which had a good mix. And I think Howard, apart from the brand, etc., which is, of course, seems quite attractive when, a young applicant, but it just made sense given the programs they had in both public law and private law. And I think that's why I sort of chose it.
So do you still feel that it is the most prestigious college in the world?
I think on name recognition, yes. In terms of training, of course, there are very, equally good or even in some areas better universities or even law schools. If you are academic training, then Yale could be a better bet. For some kind of commercial, pure commercial courses, even Columbia could be, slightly better. But I think just in terms of name recognition and brand value, I think nothing beats it because, even in general public and general awareness about Harvard is pretty high.
Yes.
So I think on that front, yes, definitely it beats the others.
So name recognition and brand value, that is what makes Harvard the best in the world. And so going ahead with our next question, as far as the master's program at Harvard Law School is concerned, sir, what all courses are available? Which ones would you recommend? And which one did you opt for?
Yeah, so I mean, the courses are very broad. The L.L.M, candidate has the ability to choose literally any course, subject only to a restriction if the course gets full. But otherwise, so some course you have to bid for because there are more applicants for the course than there will be seats in that course. But you can still bid for literally any course. So it depends on your personal interest why you are going. If you're looking at a corporate job at the end of that, then you will of course choose more of the corporate kind of courses. You will choose corporations, you will choose M&A, private equity, how, they are, and they keep on having very different courses every year. There are some base courses which are like the standard courses for constitutional law, for commercial law, and you sit in the courses mostly with JD students, JD first year, second year, a lot of times second year students or third year students. So these are large classes, 80 students, 100 students, and they'll have 10 LLMs out of 90 or 15 LLMs out of 90. And your course choice really depends on what you're looking at the end of your LLM year. I did a mix of both public law, constitutional law, and some little bit of private law courses as well. So I did course on First Amendment with Professor Lawrence Tribe. And I did one corporations course as well. I mixed it up, and then I did something on globalization of law, not globalization, but globalization of law with Professor Duncan Kennedy, and I did a long paper with him as well. So, and the professors are great. It depends on what your interests are, and they do engage very, very aggressively with you if you are a keen student. So I think it's really what you want, and you have the whole range of courses available. You will not, once you look at the menu of courses, you will not feel that you are missing out. In fact, you will be spoiled for choice.
Very well, sir. Now, how rigorous was the course at Harvard Law School, sir? If you could talk about and talk us through the examination pattern, the lectures that are conducted there in a nutshell, and how different are these courses from the ones that are taught here in India?
Yeah, I think the courses are, the entire experience is reasonably rigorous. So you do have to use your time pretty efficiently because you have effectively 9 months of active teaching overall a year. And so you have to use your time very, very efficiently and do your readings, make sure you do your readings, make sure you do your assignments, make sure you do other, and there's a lot of things happening on campus, right? The everyday, apart from the classes, there are everyday events, talks, and small conferences which are happening on a whole range of issues: global, local, commercial, constitutional. And every morning you will in your email have like 10 invites for different events. You have to sort of figure out where you want to go because all of it is so interesting. So you have to do that also, but that's also a major part of the experience. You don't want to be just going, attending classes and come, not doing anything else when the law school has so much else to offer. So you have to manage that along with ensuring that your classes you attend. If you're doing some paper, short paper, writing paper, long paper, L.L.M has two options, a short paper and a long paper. So you have to do one of those two. So that will require a lot of amount of research. So I think it is hectic. You have to allocate your time well. And since you're abroad and you're in a new place, you also want to enjoy the place. You want to, at least on weekends, whenever you can, go out and see and enjoy with friends and have a good time as well. So to mix it all up, you just need to be efficient. You need to be efficient at work. You also need to be efficient at partying. So
Efficient at more or less everything. That is what Harvard Law School is all about. Now, sir, obviously you did your graduation undergrad program from top law school in the country, which is NLSIU Bangalore, and then you did your masters from top law school in the world, which is the Harvard Law School. So did the masters program actually benefit you here? And if you could share some memorable experiences from campus life and the lessons that you learned there.
Yeah, no. So I think, of course, both my law school experiences have been very important to me. The NLS experience has been very important because in terms of my basic fundamental legal training that I, of course, got at NLS. And most of what I do in practice is today substantially connected to my, BA LLB degree in terms of the basic training. That keeps me in good stead. And that's true for all of you. Your BA LLB degree will keep you in good stead in whatever kind of practice you are. The L.L.M program gives you a larger issue narrative, how to engage with that, also understand a comparative perspective, also helps you build a kind of confidence, which is, you are aware that you have experienced things from not just one country, but from across the world. So that does give you a boost of personal confidence. And I think that just helps you in whatever professional path you choose. But really, I think the 1 year you spend in a Harvard L.L.M program you also make a lot of good, colleagues and friends for life from across the world. So that is, and there's a continuing sort of connection, education, all of that as well happening. So I would say, in terms of pure law, of course, your BLLB degree is more crucial. But in terms of a larger experience, if there was to be an icing on the top, and a cake is tasteless without the icing. So, the icing on the top is a good LLM program is certainly icing on the top.
So a good LLM program is always a icing on the top of the cake. So, sir, now talking about your mentor, who was your mentor in your case, and who guided you thoroughly from the application procedure to finishing of the master's program? Someone you looked up to?
Yeah. So, I had, I wouldn't say any one specific person. I had very important professors who supported me during my 5-year law program. I had worked with, senior counsels who wrote my recommendations. I had worked in some international NGOs, and their heads also wrote my recommendations. So it was a whole range of people who supported me and, helped me out. So sometimes you can have a single mentor, but sometimes you can have a whole range of people who have, helped you, facilitate your admission or, get into a program. So mine was the second case. I did have a bunch of people who really helped me out.
And coming to my favorite question, sir, what would be your piece of advice to all the young law graduates, young lawyers who wish to apply to Harvard Law School for their master's program, who dream
Yeah.
of making it to Harvard?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the important thing is that you understand why you want to go there. I mean, it's very important. Uh, and you should figure that out. And you have to be a little honest about that process. I mean, if you want to go there to then make a move to, a US jurisdiction for long term, then you should, be honest about that in the application as well. The good thing about Harvard is they don't judge your choices. It's very often believed that you have to make an application which is just a certain way for you to get it. You can show yourself to be a very committed corporate lawyer, and you will get into the L.L.M program. You can show yourself to be a very good public lawyer and a constitutional lawyer, and you will get into a L.L.M program. Similarly, a human rights lawyer, you can show yourself to be having a very broad range of interests across all of these areas, and you can still. So it's not as if a particular path or choice or to present yourself a certain way is going to get you in the program any better than the other. The point really is that whatever you are presenting yourself to be, you should be passionate, committed, and good about it. I think that's the sort of line, that they don't judge your choices. They just see how your choices are, how well you have worked on your choices and what's your potential, rather than making a judgment about what your choices are. So I think what I would suggest to youngsters is be yourself to begin with in your application to the extent you can. Right? Don't try to be somebody else. Because admissions program officer, it really, your SOP and other things, if you are, it's a very personalized piece of writing. If you are yourself, it really, it can be seen through on reading the SOP and the rest of it. So be yourself. And start working early on the application. My normal suggestion would be, it's better to get some couple of years of work ex and then apply. It's also less hectic. It gives you a lot of exposure. It will, apart from better chances of getting into LLM program, it will also help you use the LLM program much better. I know of a lot of people who have gone straight out of 5-year program into another campus, and I don't think they get the same outcome of it. So I would say normally apply after a bit of work ex, couple of years. Start working on your application early. Don't leave it to last minute, so that whatever your focus points, you keep on bringing it together. And third, be yourself.
So, but to add to that, I'll give you a fictional situation. So there's an applicant X. He's brilliant in academics. He has gained sufficient work experience. He's already graduated, let's say. He's still a little unsure whether he wants to pursue his master's program at Harvard Law School or not. So would you recommend him doing first a summer school program at Harvard to understand, to get a taste of what Harvard is, or would you just directly take, advise him to take the leap?
No, I don't see, the summer school programs are limited. They don't, I mean, you are on campus, but I don't think they really give you a sense of, because summer effectively the campus for all other purposes is closed, right? I mean, it's everybody else is off campus. It's only the summer school, whatever faculty, which is limited to summer school. and which is different from your regular faculty. It's not even your regular faculty. And it's a massive difference between them. I mean, so I would say it's not even an accurate, summer school is not necessarily accurate, representation of what's going to happen in the main program, apart from the fact that, yes, you are physically there. If you're physically there and you get to see the campus, so to that extent, the exposure is very real. But for rest of it, I'm not sure. So I would say, and most people who apply don't apply only to one law school, right? I mean, each of the applicants will be applying to law schools, at least across the US, if not across the US and the UK and even Europe. So I think in that context, it just, and also I don't know what the cost involved is in summer schools, etc. That may be also a factor. So my suggestion is, I don't see any reason to, do a summer school thing. I think if you're keen on doing a master's program, each one of you will have seniors who would have gotten into some good L.L.M programs, and you can always take their help in terms of what their experience is, and that should be a guide enough, is my sense.
Very well, sir. So certain really, wonderful and very logical points that were made by sir, that the faculty might not be the same. So yeah, the faculty might differ. The whole experience will be different from that of a summer school. Now, sir, going ahead to our next question. What about scholarships? Does Harvard Law School offer any?
Yeah, so I think they do have very good need-based funding, and they call it financial assistance. They don't call it a scholarship. So whatever need you show, and if it's a genuine need, you would normally get 70% to 80% of that funded. So say if you're showing that out of whatever the annual, I don't know how much it is these days, probably about $100,000 US, including all expenses and your your cost of stay, will probably be about 75, 80 otherwise, and then everything included will be about whatever 100,000, a little less, probably a little less, 75,000. So they will give you about 30 to, I mean, depending on what your need is, whatever your need is, 70 to 80% of that they should give you. So they can give you a 40,000 financial assistance. Sometimes what they do is they will give you some of it as a grant. So they will give out of, say, they give $40,000. Out of that, they'll give 30 or 35,000 as a grant. That is, they straight away, wipe that out from your expense. Whereas for remaining, they will say you can take a, very well-termed student loan, which will be on, very, very good terms, very low interest rate kind of student loans. But my sense is, and the important thing is that they look at your application for admission first, and without reference to your application for funding. Only if you make it, then they look at your application for funding. So these two are very separate processes. You first make it into the admission, and then you are offered funding. So that's why they offer, Harvard has a good amount of money, and they therefore offer a good, generous financial package when there is a genuine need. My sense is most Indian students do get some kind of financial aid, some more than the others, depending on each financial situation. But most of them do get some financial aid or the other. Some of them get almost 80% of the entire cost.
And does Harvard guarantee an accommodation, sir?
Yeah, I mean, there's on-campus accommodation, there is off-campus accommodation close by. Accommodation won't be a problem. Once you make it, you will get accommodation. There's sufficient accommodation in dorms. You get a single room. Everybody has a single room on a dorm. So that should not be an issue. Those are things which are like minor things which once you get in, you are guaranteed to get that. Normally on-campus accommodation is cheaper than the off-campus one. Off-campus, on-campus when I was around used to cost us $700, $800 a month is what we would be paying. Off-campus will be $1,200, $1,300 at least. So you'll be paying $400. But off-campus has some other, I mean, it won't just be a small room. It will be probably slightly like a studio or a better space. So those people who have that, that extra money and don't mind paying it, then it may make sense. A lot of students from Europe, etc., would take off-campus housing, but most Indian students would be on campus housing.
So basically, you pay for that additional luxury that you would want, which is obviously expensive as compared to the one that is guaranteed by Harvard. So I think also, sir, if you promptly apply, then there are chances of getting an accommodation on campus as well. I think depends on more or less the timing of the application. if there's
Yeah,
a
no. So once you are through, once you have been shown to have been admitted,
okay,
then
okay.
the process starts. So you don't have to apply for accommodation with your application. All that jazz you don't have to do with your admissions application.
Okay.
Admissions application is one process. Once you get into the admission, you accept. Then they give you an offer. Okay, now we are giving you an offer for admission. Then you accept it. Then there will be some upfront payment which you have to do for the whatever the amount may be after your financial aid and all. And then you are entitled to select rooms, etc. and dorms. It's an online process, and you can just choose. It's pretty simple, and I don't see any complication in that.
So no complication as far as the accommodation is concerned. Once you're guaranteed admission, you're guaranteed accommodation. It's simple.
Correct.
Right? No separate procedures required for the
Yeah.
same. Now, sir, how's the placement situation there? The placement landscape in the US master's program? I'm sorry, I stand corrected. The Harvard Law master's program, because many say the pandemic is gone, but I think it's safer to call it we're in the middle of a pandemic. So how do you think and assess the situation there? And do you still advise students to apply looking at the placement landscape or getting placed there?
Yeah, no. So I think, of course, for a LLM candidate, Harvard normally in most years is you do get, if you're looking for a US law firm job, you will get a job in most years, because uh, given the brand and given the availability, you may not get a firm of your choice, the first or the second firm, but somebody or the other will pick you up. A lot of the hiring situation depends on the economy more than the fact that it's the year you are graduating. If the economy is booming, it's a bit of an employees market, like it is right now. For instance, it's in very much an employees market in the US. The law firms are really looking for young associates, senior associates at all levels. It's very different from India in that sense. The US market, not just in the legal sector, I think there are overall 1.9 jobs for every one person who's looking for a job. So it's really right now employees market, and I think that's broadly also true for the law firm recruitment. So it's a great, if you're right now graduating from L.L.M this year, it's a great year to graduate, because your chance of getting a job is going to be much higher. You in fact probably going to have some choice of firms to choose from, who will select you. So the market condition is very important, especially if you are looking for a law firm job, which is what the bulk of 70 to 80% of LLMs. I mean, a lot of LLMs are very clear they want to come back to their home country. So with them, it is very, very. They don't even bother taking either the bar exam or preparing for the interviews and sitting for them, because I was also very much clear that I didn't want to go down the US corporate law firm route. But you also have then the public law options, right? I mean, apart from the law firm. So the people, there are broadly four categories of people, I'll say, in an LLM program, at the risk of some oversimplification. One is, of course, who are very clear they want to take a corporate law firm job in the US somewhere after graduation. That is the bulk, let me say. Then there is a category which is very clear, that they want to come back to their home country and do whatever they are doing. Or change their stance, but they are very clear they want to come back to their home country. Then third is really a bunch of people who want to sort of do academics, and they are looking at SJD and that kind of an option, which is also an option. And because the environment is so tied up and academic, a lot of us, I mean, I never thought of doing a doctorate, and I haven't done, but while I was on campus, it really made me think. I gave it some serious thought that should I apply for a SJD program or not. I eventually did not, because I was more inclined towards practice. But it did, just the environment is such that it makes you think, and the professors are so good that you really think, okay, it's a great opportunity. So that is the third thing which is there. And the fourth bunch really is public law options in the US or across the world, which is a World Bank job, Asian Development Bank job. Those kind of options, or some kind of international NGO job. And that is also there. In fact, for me, immediately after I chose, I was not interested in working in the US in a law firm, but I didn't want to experience. So I got through the African Development Bank, and I worked there for about 7-8 months in Tunisia, in North Africa. So, you do get a lot of different kinds of options, which you otherwise wouldn't get in other places. So I think these are the broad four areas or kinds of LLM students you get.
Okay, so basically you can even go and pursue your masters with an open mind, because you never know when the landscape around you changes and you're forced to come back to your home country. So I think that is when there are so many options that have opened up now, as you mentioned, sir. So it's always better to have a lot of options in front of you, and then depending on the situation, you can take your calls otherwise. And lastly, sir, what are the visa requirements as far as the application procedure? Well, it's a very technical question, and an applicant can very well look it up on the website. But it's always better to have first-hand experience, and uh, what kind of visa is required.
No, so they you will get a student's visa. I mean, even if you have an existing US visa, you will need to travel on a student's visa, um, because you obviously can't go and study on a tourist visa or a business visa, which is called a B1, B2. It's a F1 visa, I think, if I still remember correctly. It's been quite a few years, more than a decade now. So, but the thing is that visa will not be a problem if once you get through our program. I have not heard of any student not getting a visa after getting through a Harvard L.L.M program. So that should happen smoothly. After the visa, you have what is OPT. It's like a practical training year. So if you get some kind of a job or something after that, so you can get the OPT papers done, that will allow you to work in a law firm or some other setup for about a year after that. So that visa is effective. Although you continue to be on a student visa, you can work formally and legally. And that's what most LLM students who get jobs in the US do. And then, of course, you can change your visa status later on, etc., depending on whether you choose to stay in the US medium term, long term, etc.
So suppose there's an applicant who already has a tourist visa for 10 years, so he has to apply separately for a student visa. And that will
Yeah,
happen only once he gets admission, he secures his admission at Harvard Law School, and he need not worry with the visa formalities, because once you get admission at a top law college like Harvard, then I don't think it should be a procedure and anybody should be bothered about it.
correct. So we will be sent visa papers, relevant papers which are needed, forms, etc., by the Harvard Law School graduate admissions department, and then you fix an interview with the US consulate, US embassy or consulate in India. And you go for that interview, and normally, I'm certain almost every student will get a visa. That should not be a problem.
Very well, sir. And lastly, sir, do you have a Harvard Alumni Association here in India? And
Yeah, we have a Harvard Club of India, and that's
oh,
pretty good because it is. In fact, I was until 2021, I was the vice president there. So it's a very good space because it's a cross professional space. It has people from all the schools. So you have people from Kennedy School, business school, lawyers, and so therefore that continuation of the interdisciplinary exchange that really continues in the Harvard Club of India. So for everybody and anybody who's graduating from either Harvard Law School or any of the other Harvard programs, I would certainly encourage them to become members of the Harvard Club of India. It allows you to stay part of the community and continue the exchange.
well, sir, thank you so much. It really means a lot to me and my team. You took out time. You did this session on Harvard L.L.M for us, and I'm so grateful for you to you for that. And to all the viewers who are watching, our email is mentioned on the channel. In case if you have still any queries with respect to the application procedure, how to structure your CV, etc., etc., feel free to write to us. We'll be more than happy to forward the same. But I'm so sure that I think all your questions must have been answered by now, because we've more or less delved into everything from application procedure to a robust CV to WorkX to how to and what courses are available, etc. and etc. So thank you so much, sir. Once again, there you go. That was Mr. Shadan Farasat, sir. You've seen him on television on so many occasions. Now you're finally getting a chance to get a glimpse of him on our channel, the Virtual Amicus. Thank you so much, sir. Once again, any parting words before we wrap this up?
No, thanks a lot. I really enjoyed my interaction with you, and I hope I could be of some use to possible applicants. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, sir. It's goodbye for now. Thank you.